Claire was the most trusted nurse on that ward. Careful, dependable, the one everyone called when something needed to be done right. That reputation was exactly what made her a target. And the person who pulled the trigger had been saying good morning to her for 2 years. Every part of this story releases fast and waits for no one. Subscribe now, because the moment you fall behind, you will have already missed the twist that changes everything. The bullet did not announce itself. Claire was standing in the back alley behind Yonsei General Hospital at 11:47 p.m., holding a patient's forgotten medication bag, when the world cracked open. Not a loud crack, more like a sharp whisper, the kind a whip makes when it cuts air. Then Claire felt something slam into her left shoulder, and her back met the cold wall of the hospital building, and she slid down it slowly, the way leaves fall when there is no wind. She did not scream. She was a nurse. Nurses are trained to assess first, panic second. So even as her vision tilted, she pressed her right hand against the wound and looked at her surroundings with calm, dark eyes. The alley was empty. The street light above her flickered. Somewhere, a car engine faded into the distance, fast, deliberate, already gone. Claire Mayer was 31 years old. She was from a country far south of the equator, a place of red earth and wide rivers. A place she had left 4 years ago on a scholarship that turned into a career that turned into a life she was still figuring out. She spoke Korean with a slight accent that her patients found endearing. She laughed too loudly for Korean standards and apologized for it every time, then laughed again. She kept pepper she ground herself in a little jar inside her locker. She called her mother every Sunday. She was just a nurse, and someone had just shot her. Her phone had no signal in the alley. She pressed harder against the wound. The medication bag was still in her other hand. She had not dropped it. That detail, for some reason, made her want to cry. She had not dropped the patient's medication. Even now, she made it 6 steps before her knees stopped cooperating. That was when the door at the end of the alley opened. Byum Suk-yeon was not supposed to be there. He was not supposed to be in that alley, in that hospital district, in that part of the city at all. He had 3 rules he lived by, and one of them was never stand still in an alley after midnight. He had broken that rule because his driver had taken a wrong turn and Byum Suk had stepped out to make a call in private, and now there was a woman on the ground in front of him, pressing her hand to her shoulder, staring up at him with eyes that were furious instead of afraid. That stopped him cold. He had seen people get shot before. They usually either cried or went somewhere far away in their minds. This woman looked at him like she was calculating whether he was a threat. "Who are you?" she said. In Korean, with an accent he could not immediately place. "Someone who is going to call an ambulance," he said. "Already did. From the hospital door. They are coming." She glanced at his hands. "Are you the one who shot me?" Byum Suk-yeon blinked. "No." "Then help me stay awake." He crossed the alley in 4 steps and crouched beside her. Up close, she was wearing navy blue scrubs and 1 earring, a small gold hoop in her right ear. The left earring was gone. Her natural hair was pulled back under a headband. There was a medication bag in her left hand that she had somehow not released. "What is that?" he asked, pointing to the bag. "Patient's medication. Make sure it gets to room 412. Her voice was steady. Too steady. Her eyes were working very hard to stay focused. "It is important." "You were shot," Byum Suk said. "The medication can wait. The patient cannot." She finally looked at him fully. Looked at him, not just assessed him. "You are not from around this district." "No. You are wearing very plain clothes for someone whose watch costs more than most people's cars." Byum Suk glanced at his wrist without thinking. "The watch." "Yes." He had forgotten about it. "Who are you?" she asked again. Before he could answer, the ambulance lights swept into the far end of the alley, and the night swallowed the question whole. He rode with her. He did not know why. His driver was waiting. He had a meeting at 1 in the morning, the kind that could not be rescheduled. He had people who depended on his presence, his decisions, his voice. He got into the ambulance anyway. The paramedics did not question him. They assumed he was family. He did not correct them. He watched Claire Mayer answer every question they asked her in a clipped, clear voice, watched her refuse to release the medication bag until a paramedic physically took it from her and promised, to get it to room 412. Only then did she let her eyes close. "She's stable," one paramedic said. "Lucky. Bullet went through clean." Byum Suk sat with his hands on his knees and stared at the floor of the ambulance and felt something shift inside him that he could not name. He stayed until she was out of surgery. He told himself it was because he needed to know she was alive. He told himself it was the responsible thing to do. He had been at the scene, after all. He told himself a lot of things while he sat in a plastic hospital chair with his elbows on his knees and his very expensive watch catching the fluorescent light. His phone rang 12 times. He answered none of them. At 3:14 a.m., a doctor came out and said, "She's awake. She's asking about a medication bag." Despite himself, Byung-suk almost smiled. He did not go in to see her. That would have been too much. He was not her family, not her friend, not anything to her. He was a stranger who had been in the wrong alley at the wrong time. But before he left, he spoke to the head nurse at the station and made sure room 412 had received the medication. Then he walked out of the hospital into the early morning and called his most trusted man, Sergeant Park. No. He called his Mando. "Someone shot a nurse outside Yonsei General tonight," Byung-suk said. "A woman. African. Wearing scrubs. I need to know who pulled the trigger and why." There was a pause on the other end. "Boss, why?" Byung-suk did not answer that. "Find out," he said, and ended the call. Claire Mayer woke up with her left arm in a sling and her right hand in a fist. The first thing she felt was anger. Not fear, not relief, anger. Someone had shot her. Her. She had done nothing to anyone. She had come to this country to work, to help, to build something. And someone had put a bullet in her shoulder in a dark alley. And for what? The second thing she felt was curiosity. Because on the table beside her bed, beside the cup of water and the pain medication schedule, there was a small folded card. She opened it with one hand. It said, in neat Korean handwriting, "Room 412 received the medication. Rest." No name. She stared at it for a long time. The police came at 9 in the morning. 2 detectives, Detective Lim Jae-oh, heavy-set, skeptical, who wrote everything down, and Detective Song Ha-rin, young, sharp-eyed, who wrote nothing but seemed to absorb everything. They asked her the standard questions. Did she know anyone who would want to hurt her? Did she have enemies? Had she seen anything unusual at the hospital recently? Claire answered everything honestly. No enemies that she knew of. No unusual activity. She had just been returning forgotten medication. The medication, Detective Lim said, writing. What was it? Cardiology prescription. Standard. She paused. Why? Just being thorough. But Detective Song was watching her with those sharp eyes, and Claire had been a nurse long enough to know when someone was not telling the full truth. Something about that question about the medication. Something about the way they had both leaned slightly forward when she mentioned it. Is the patient in 412 in some kind of trouble? Claire asked. Detective Lim said no. Quickly. Too quickly. After they left, Claire lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about the man in the alley. The one with the plain clothes and the expensive watch and the calm voice. She thought about how he had not answered her question when she asked who he was. She thought about how the card beside her bed had no name. And she started, for the first time, to wonder what she had walked into. 3 days later, they discharged her. Her arm was in a sling. She had a follow-up appointment in 2 weeks. Her hospital supervisor, a round-faced woman named head nurse Cho Eun-mi, told her to take 2 weeks off, and then looked at her face and said, "Actually, take 3. Claire went back to her apartment, a small but well-kept place she had decorated with fabric from home, bright yellows and oranges against the white walls. She made tea. She called her mother and said she had had a small accident and was fine, because the truth would have had her mother on the next flight, and that was a chaos Claire was not ready for. She did not tell her mother about the man in the alley. She did not tell anyone about the man in the alley. But she kept the card. On the 4th day, someone slid an envelope under her door. Inside was a single sheet of paper. On it, in that same neat handwriting, they were not trying to shoot you. You were in the way. The person they wanted is the patient in 412. Leave this alone. Claire read it twice. Then she read it again. Leave this alone. She set the paper down on her kitchen table. She picked up her tea. She looked out her window at the gray city morning. She was a nurse. She did not know how to leave things alone. She had once tracked down a patient's family across 3 provinces because the man kept saying he had no one. She had once argued with a senior doctor for 40 minutes about a misread chart. She had once, one time, carried a patient down 2 flights of stairs when the elevator broke during a cardiac event. She did not leave things alone. It was, her mother always said, both her greatest quality and her most dangerous one. She looked at the paper again. Leave this alone. No, she said, to the empty apartment. Then she picked up her phone. The person she called was the last person anyone would have expected. His name was Felix. Felix Ade. He was African, from a coastal country known for its music and its food and its crowded, beautiful cities. He had come to Korea 7 years ago for a business degree and stayed because he fell in love with the food, the mountains, and a girl who eventually left but whose family let him stay in the guest apartment above their restaurant anyway. Felix was tall, cheerful, wildly observant, and crucially, he knew everyone. Not in a dangerous way. In a neighborhood way. He knew the rice cake vendor's cousin and the pharmacist's brother-in-law and the building manager's best friend's nephew. If you needed to find out something quietly, you called Felix. Someone slid a note under my door, Claire told him. After someone shot me. Claire. His voice went flat. You should go to the police. I did. They already know something. They would not tell me what. Then come over. I will make jollof and we will figure this out. Over a bowl of rice and a great deal of concern on Felix's part, Claire laid out everything she knew. The shooting. The man in the alley. The note by the bedside. The note under the door. The detective's reaction to the mention of room 412's medication. Felix listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. The patient in 412, he said. Do you know who it was? A man. Older. He came in 3 days before I was shot. Heart condition. He was quiet. He had no visitors. She paused. He paid in cash. Up front. The full bill. Felix made a face. That is not normal. No. And the medication you were bringing back to him, where was it from? A normal pharmacy? Hospital pharmacy. She frowned. But it was prescribed by a doctor who does not usually work cardiology. I noticed that when I picked it up, but I was busy. I thought maybe there was a cover situation. Claire. Felix set down his spoon. I think the man in 412 is not just a sick old man. I know. And whoever shot you, they either wanted to stop the medication from reaching him, or they wanted to send him a message. Or both. I know, she said again. Felix looked at her. You are not going to leave this alone. I already told the empty apartment no. He closed his eyes briefly. Okay, then here is what I know. He lowered his voice, though they were alone. There is a man. He runs things in this city, not the political things, not the police things. The other things. The things that keep certain streets quiet and certain people safe. He is from a city in the east, not here. He moved here years ago and built something. People call him different things. His actual name. Felix paused. I have heard it once. Byung-suk-yeon. Claire went very still. Why do you look like that? Felix said immediately. That name, she said. I think that was the man in the alley. The silence that followed lasted a long time. Felix made her promise 3 things before she left his apartment. 1. She would not go looking for Byung-suk-yeon directly. 2. She would check in with him every morning. 3. She would eat properly because she had barely touched the rice. She promised all 3. She meant 2 of them. The one she did not mean was the first. She did not go looking for Byung-suk-yeon. Not exactly. She went looking for information about room 412, specifically about the old man who had been in it. She went back to the hospital not as a patient, but as herself, in her regular clothes, sling on her arm, nodding to the nurses who saw her with sad eyes and asked how she was healing. She was healing fine, she told them. Could she check on a former patient? Strictly for peace of mind? Room 412 was empty. The bed had been remade. The window had a small plant on the sill that had not been there before. A fresh one, placed by housekeeping to make the room feel alive again. The old man was gone. He was transferred, the floor nurse told her. A woman named Sunhee who Claire had worked alongside for 2 years. 3 days ago, while you were still admitted yourself. Transferred where? Sunhee looked at her, a real look, a careful one. The paperwork listed a private facility. But Claire, Detective Song came back the morning after you were discharged. She asked about that patient specifically. She looked at his records for a long time. Sunhee lowered her voice. She looked worried. Claire absorbed this. Did the old man have a name? I cannot remember seeing it on the chart. I only handled the medication. The name on the chart was... Sunny thought. Yoon Dae-cheol. Claire kept her face neutral. But inside, something clicked loudly into place. Yoon. The same family name as Byung-suk-yeon. She was halfway down the hospital corridor when she felt it. the particular prickling at the back of her neck that she had learned, in the past week, to take seriously. She turned. A man was leaning against the wall near the stairwell entrance. He was not a doctor. He was not visiting anyone. He was watching her with the practiced blankness of someone who did not want to be remembered. Claire kept walking. She turned a corner, found a family waiting area with other people in it, and sat down among them and checked her phone like she was waiting for news. 40 seconds later, the man walked past the doorway without stopping. She waited 5 more minutes before leaving through a different exit. She called Felix from the street. The patient's name was Yonsei General, she said. A long pause. Claire. That is okay. That is Suk-yeon's father. She stopped walking. The old man is his father, Felix said. And if Suk-yeon was in that alley outside the hospital at midnight, it was not a coincidence. He was there because of his father. Which means someone tried to shoot me to stop me from delivering medication to the man Suk-yeon was protecting, Claire said. Her voice came out very level. And whoever shot me knew that if the father did not get his medication, he could have died, Felix finished. It was not a warning. It was an attempt. On the father. Through you. Felix exhaled. Claire, you need to understand what you are in the middle of. These are not people who... I know. She started walking again. I need to find Suk-yeon. I said, Felix. Someone used me to try to kill an old man. I did not consent to being used. I would like to have a conversation about that. There was a very long pause. Then Felix said with great resignation, I will ask around. Carefully. Give me 2 hours. He gave her an address in 40 minutes. Not Suk-yeon's home. Felix was not reckless. But a restaurant. A specific table at a specific restaurant in a district of the city known for its narrow streets and its excellent cold noodles. Felix said, Someone told me he eats there on Thursdays. Today is Thursday. Be careful. It was a Thursday. It was also 2:30 in the afternoon. The restaurant was called Chongsong Noodle House, and it was the kind of place that looked unremarkable from the outside, but had perfectly polished floors and a menu written in careful handwriting and food that made you understand immediately why people came back. Claire arrived early. She took a table by the window. She ordered the cold buckwheat noodles because the woman at the counter recommended them. They were extraordinary. She was finishing them when Suk-yeon walked in. He was alone. Or not alone. 2 men walked in with him, but they sat at a separate table near the entrance, and he moved to the back corner table, and she realized in a moment that the reason this restaurant worked for him was the layout. His back to the wall, sight-line to both exits, no one within listening distance unless he chose. He had not seen her yet. She picked up her water glass, stood, and walked over to his table and sat down across from him. His expression did not change. That was the extraordinary thing. It did not flicker. He looked at her for a full 3 seconds, and then he said, You should not be here. You left a note by my bed, she said, and one under my door. The first was from the hospital administration. The handwriting matched. A pause. The second note told you to leave this alone. And I told my empty apartment no. She folded her hands on the table. Her sling made it slightly awkward. The man in room 412 is your father. Something moved behind his eyes. Not shock, he was past shock. But something. The person who shot me, she continued, was trying to stop the medication from reaching him. Which means they wanted him to die quietly in a hospital. Which means someone in your world wants your father dead. She tilted her head slightly. Am I wrong? Suk-yeon looked at her for a long, measured time. He had the kind of face that did not give much away. Strong-lined, with dark eyes that were older than the rest of him, a jaw that carried tension without showing it. He was younger than she would have guessed from that first night in the alley. Early to mid-30s, perhaps. He wore, today, a dark gray jacket and no tie, and his hands on the table were very still. You are not wrong, he said. Good. She met his eyes. I want to know who shot me, and I want to know why you were in that alley. Those are 2 different conversations. Then we will have both. Another long look. Then, for the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not a smile, exactly, but the edges of one. Recognition, maybe. The look of someone who had expected to face resistance and found it in an unexpected shape. You are very calm for someone who should be frightened, he said. I was frightened in the ambulance, she said. I processed it. I am a nurse. We triage our emotions. You are also very direct. You left 2 notes with no name. I came here instead of sending a letter. We are both direct. He studied her. She studied him back. Outside, the narrow street was busy with afternoon pedestrians, none of whom knew that this conversation was happening. The person who shot you, Byung-suk said slowly, is connected to a man named Cha Ji-sung. He and I have had a disagreement, a significant one. He discovered my father was in hospital. He saw an opportunity. Through me. You were an accident of timing. You were not the target. That does not make what happened to you acceptable. His jaw held something tight. I owe you an apology for that at minimum. I do not want an apology, Claire said. I want to understand. He looked at her. Why? Because, she said, and for a moment something very real crossed her own face. Something that was not calm, not analytical, just honest. I came to this country to help people. I have spent 4 years here giving everything I have to this work. And someone took the most ordinary, most good thing I was doing, and turned it into a weapon. I need to understand how that happened, because I cannot unknow it, and I cannot pretend I am not in the middle of something. The restaurant hummed quietly around them. Byung-suk said, What is your name? Claire. Claire Mayer. Claire. He said it simply, like he was placing it somewhere careful. I will tell you what I can, but you will not like all of it. I rarely like things, she said. I do them anyway. He told her about Cha Ji-sung. Not everything. She understood she was not getting everything. But enough. Cha Ji-sung was a man who had years ago been an ally. Then the relationship had broken. The reasons were complex and old, and involved things that Byung-suk explained with careful vagueness. What was clear was this. Cha Ji-sung wanted Byung-suk's network. The entire structure that Byung-suk had built, connections, relationships, responsibilities, an entire underground system of people and favors and protection. Cha wanted it. Byung-suk would not give it. The negotiation had been going on for months through intermediaries, growing colder and more dangerous with each exchange. Your father, Claire said. He is important to Cha's plan. My father retired years ago, Byung-suk said. He has nothing to do with my work. He is an old man with a heart condition. But Cha knows that my father is the one person. He stopped. Restarted. There are things I will not do for business. My father is above all of it. Cha knows that. So he found my father. To force your hand. Yes. Claire looked at the table. She thought about the old man in room 412, quiet, no visitors, paying cash. She thought about him lying there not knowing that someone wanted to use his heartbeat as a bargaining chip. Where is your father now? She asked. Safe. The word was absolute. No detail offered. And Cha, does he know the attempt failed? Yes. He knows. Byung-suk's hands, still on the table, shifted slightly. Which is why I moved my father immediately. And which is why, after what happened to you, my people have been, he chose his words carefully, looking into things. Hunting the shooter, Claire said. He did not correct her. She sat with that for a moment. The whole city's underground, looking for one person. The one who had stood in an alley and fired a bullet that was not even meant for her. Looking for them because of what they had done to her. She did not know what to do with that. Why did you ride in the ambulance? She asked. The question had been sitting in her since that first night. Byung-suk looked at her. He was quiet for long enough that she thought he might not answer. You would not let go of the medication bag, he said at last. Even shot. You kept holding it. He paused. I have met a great many people in my life. I have not met very many who would do that. The restaurant was quiet. The afternoon light came through the window at a long angle and made everything look golden. I need to ask you something, Claire said. And I need an honest answer. I will try. Is the person who shot me still a danger to me? Byung-suk held her gaze. Right now, yes. Because Cha does not know exactly what you know or what you do not know. You are a loose thread to him. So I am in danger because of information I do not fully have. Partly. Then give me the rest of it, she said. Because the only way I am in more danger from knowing is if someone thinks I might talk. And the only way to remove that is to actually solve this. She leveled her eyes at him. Help me understand what I walked into. All of it. Byung-suk looked at Claire Mayer for a very long moment. Then he said, Finish your tea. Then come with me. She should not have gone with him. She knew that. Felix would have had 17 things to say about it, all of them reasonable, all of them correct. But Felix was not sitting across from a man who had just told her the truth in a way that cost him something, and she had spent 4 years learning to read people, to look past what they showed and see what they were actually carrying. Byum-suk Yun was carrying a great deal. So she went. He took her not to somewhere imposing or strange, but to an ordinary-looking office building in a district full of ordinary-looking office buildings. The kind with a coffee cart outside and a security desk inside and elevator music that had no personality. His name was not on any door. There was no display of anything that said power or danger. There was a conference table with chairs, a whiteboard, and a man standing at the window who turned when they entered. This was Do Sung-chan, the man Byum-suk had called that night. He was lean and unhurried, with the kind of stillness that came not from peace, but from having learned a long time ago to never waste a single movement. He looked at Claire with the careful assessment of someone deciding, in real time, how much of a problem she was going to be. "She knows about Cha," Byum-suk said, by way of introduction. Do said nothing. He kept looking at Claire. "She also," Byum-suk continued, held on to a medication bag through a gunshot wound. "I decided to extend trust." Do looked at the arm in a sling. Something shifted in his expression, not warmth exactly, but a loosening of the wariness. He gave a single nod. Okay. It was not a warm welcome. Claire did not need one. On the whiteboard there were names and lines connecting them, a web of relationships and positions that she could only partially read. She scanned it quickly. She saw Cha Ji-sung's name. She saw the name of the hospital. She saw, connected to a name she did not recognize, the word she had been thinking about since Sun He told her. Yun Dae-cheol. Father. And beside it, something that made her stop. A second line. Going somewhere else. To a name she did not recognize. Oh Sung-tae. "Who is Oh Sung-tae?" she said. Both men turned to look at her. Do's stillness cracked just slightly. "Where did you see that name?" Byum-suk said. She pointed to the whiteboard. Byum-suk looked at Do. Do looked at the whiteboard. "I put that there this morning," Do said slowly. "It came up in the background check on the shooter. Oh Sung-tae appeared in the financials. One old transfer from 2 years ago that connects to a property your father owns." Byum-suk went very still. "Your father owns a property connected to the man investigating him?" Claire said. "My father is not involved in my business," Byum-suk said. The words came out carefully, like he was placing each one down to make sure it held weight. "I know," Claire said. "But, does your father know a man named Oh Sung-tae?" "I do not know who that is." "Maybe," Do said, and his voice had gone somewhere careful. "You should ask him." The drive to where Byum-suk's father was staying took 40 minutes. It was a small, tidy house on a hill, set back from a road that wound up through trees. The kind of place that looked like a retired teacher's home. Simple, maintained, with a garden that had been attended to with genuine care. Yun Dae-cheol was sitting in a chair by the window when they arrived. He was smaller than Claire had imagined from what she knew of him. A slight man, thin now from the illness, with white hair and hands that moved in his lap like restless birds. When he saw Byum-suk, something in his face opened, a deep and unguarded love that he did not try to hide. Then he saw Claire. His expression changed. Not with fear. With recognition. Claire caught it immediately. That flicker, that "I know who this is," that crossed his face for just a second before his eyes went neutral again. Byum-suk had not noticed. He was crossing the room, speaking to his father in a gentle, low voice, asking how he was, checking the medication schedule on the side table. Claire stayed near the door. She watched Yun Dae-cheol's hands stop moving in his lap. Watched him compose himself deliberately. She waited until Byum-suk stepped to the window to speak quietly with Do, who had come in behind them. Then she moved to the chair beside the old man and sat down. "You recognized me," she said quietly in Korean. Yun Dae-cheol looked at her. His eyes were dark, like his son's, and older, and very tired. "You are the nurse," he said. "Yes. They told me someone was hurt bringing my medication." He looked down at her sling. "I am sorry. That should not have happened." "No, it should not." She kept her voice gentle. She was still a nurse, after all, and he was still a recovering patient. "Mr. Yun, do you know a man named Oh Sung-tae?" The hands in his lap went very still. "Sir," she said softly, "I am asking because whatever you tell me, I will not use it to hurt your son. I am trying to understand what happened to me. That is all." A long moment. "Oh Sung-tae," the old man said, "is my wife's younger brother." Claire absorbed this. "Your son's uncle?" "Yes. But Byum-suk does not know him. My wife and her family, we were separated long before Byum-suk was old enough to remember. I raised him alone." The old man looked at his hands. "Sung-tae and I had not spoken in 15 years. He contacted me 2 months ago. What did he want? Yonsei General closed his eyes briefly. He said he had debts. Very serious debts. He needed money. He came to me because he knew. A breath. He knew about my son. What my son has built. He said if I did not help him, if I did not convince Suk to pay his debts, he would tell people where I was. Tell people who would want to use me the way. He stopped. The way Cha Jiaisong already found you, Claire finished. The old man looked at her. Sungtae works for Cha. The room seemed to expand. Claire sat very straight. Your son's uncle, she said slowly, works for the man trying to destroy your son. He did not know at first, the old man said, with the complicated loyalty of a man defending someone who had hurt him. He says he did not know. He got into Cha's debt first, and then Cha discovered the connection, and used him. And the night I was shot, Sungtae told me. The old man's voice was barely above a whisper. He came here the next morning, crying. He said he had told Cha where to find me at the hospital. He did not know about the nurse. He did not know they would. He stopped. He was supposed to just tell them which room. That was all. He did not know what they planned to do with it. Claire sat with this for a moment. Suk's uncle, a man Suk did not even know existed, had handed his father's location to the enemy. Not out of malice, the old man believed. Out of desperation. But the result was the same, a bullet in a nurse's shoulder. A near death for a sick old man. Does your son know any of this? Claire asked. No. Are you going to tell him? Yonsei General looked toward the window, where his son stood with his back turned, speaking to Do in a low voice. The love was there again, that undefended, entire love. If I tell him, the old man said, he will do something about it. The way he does things. And if you do not tell him, Claire said, then Sungtae is still out there. And Cha still has someone on the inside. She held the old man's gaze gently. The only way to protect your son is to tell him the truth. The old man was quiet for a long time. Then Suk turned from the window. He looked at his father. He looked at Claire. He read something in both of their faces, because he was, for all his guardedness, a person who watched people the way she did. What is it? He said. The telling was not easy. Claire let the old man do it. It was his story, his pain, his truth to hand to his son. She stayed in her chair and watched Suk Yun receive the information with a face that went through 3 stages she could see and probably 4 she could not. The first was confusion, a genuine, open confusion, because he truly had not known about this uncle, this connection, this whole branch of family. The second was understanding, the pieces clicking into place, the shape of the betrayal becoming clear. The third was something controlled and cold that pulled everything else inside it, the way a storm front swallows blue sky. He did not raise his voice. He did not say very much at all, which Claire was beginning to understand, was how he was most dangerous. He looked at Claire. You got this out of him. He told me, she said simply. I just asked. Something crossed his expression. Not irritation, the opposite. In 3 minutes. I am a nurse. People tell me things. We are trained to ask the right questions at the right time. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at his father. The coldness in him, the stormfront control, had not left, but underneath it she could see something else. Something that hurt. Appa, he said. The Korean word for father, small and unguarded, the first unguarded thing she had seen from him. Why did you not tell me? Because I was afraid, the old man said. Simply. Without excuse. Suk looked at his hands. He was quiet for a moment that cost him something. Then he stood up. Do, he said. I heard, Do said from the doorway. Find Sungtae. Already on it. Do's phone was already in his hand. Suk turned to Claire. His face had reclosed, not unkind, but contained again. I will take you home. I can take myself home. Cha's people may still be watching. I will take you home. She looked at him. He looked back, and the thing about him that was starting to become clear to her was that he was not used to being looked at. Not really, not by someone who looked to understand rather than to assess threat or find advantage. She could see him noticing that, slightly off balance by it. Fine, she said. But I want to know what you are going to do. About which part? About Cha. About Sungtae. About the person who shot me. She stood, adjusting her sling. I want to know. Not because I am asking to be involved. I am a nurse, not any of whatever this is. But because it happened to me. And I deserve to know how it ends. He was quiet. Then, I will tell you. Is that a promise? I do not make promises I cannot keep. Neither do I, she said. So that is something we have in common. For a moment, just a moment, the almost smile was back. And this time it was close enough to real that she had to look away from it and find somewhere else to put her eyes. In this episode, the hunter becomes the hunted. And Claire discovers that the betrayal goes even deeper than an uncle's debt. It goes all the way back to the night she was hired at that hospital. Nothing about her being in Seoul was an accident. She slept badly that night. Not from pain. The wound was healing cleanly, the kind of through-and-through injury that the body is efficient about once shock passes. She slept badly because every time she was close to rest, her mind pulled up a new angle, a new thread. Nothing about her being in Seoul was an accident. She did not know that yet. But she would. It started with Detective Song Ha-rin, who appeared at Claire's door at 7:15 in the morning looking like she had not slept either. "Can I come in?" the detective said. Claire stepped back. "Tea. Please." They sat at Claire's kitchen table, the fabric-covered walls bright in the morning light, and Detective Song Ha-rin set her notebook down without opening it and said, "I am going to tell you something I should not tell you. All right. The hospital where you work, Yonsei General, we have been investigating it for 6 months. Not the hospital itself. A person inside it." The detective paused. The doctor who prescribed the cardiology medication for the patient in room 412. The one you found unusual. He does not normally work cardiology. He does not normally work cardiology because he is not primarily a doctor. He is primarily an informant. Song Ha-rin looked at her steadily. He reports to Cha Ji-sung. He has been inside the hospital for 2 years, feeding patient information. Claire wrapped her hands around her teacup. He knew the old man was there. "Yes. But Ms. Mayer, here is the part one should not tell you." The detective leaned forward slightly. "We cannot find any way that the old man's admission could have been traced through normal hospital channels. His records were sealed. His name in the system was a code. The only reason the doctor, and through him, Cha, knew that Yoon Daecheol was in room 412 is if someone told them directly. Someone who knew he was there." "Oh Sungtae," Claire said. Song Ha-rin stared at her. "How do you know that name?" "He told me." "The old man." Claire set her tea down. "Oh Sungtae is his brother-in-law. He works for Cha." He gave Cha the room number. The detective was quiet for a moment. "You have been busy. I had questions." Claire looked at the detective directly. "But you came here for something else. You did not come to tell me about the doctor." Song Ha-rin picked up her notebook. Did not open it. Set it down again. 6 months ago, she said, when we began this investigation, we needed someone inside the hospital. Not a plant, not an officer. Someone who was already there, already trusted, already invisible to the system we were watching. A pause. My supervisor recommended reaching out to a Ghanaian-Korean liaison organization that helps African medical professionals find placement in Korean hospitals. We asked them to recommend someone for a particular ward. Claire felt the room change temperature. "They recommended you," Song Ha-rin said. "Your credentials were exceptional. You had been on a waiting list for a full-time position at Yonsei. We moved your application." The silence was absolute. "You moved my application," Claire said. "Yes. You put me in that hospital. We put you in position to, we did not anticipate," the detective stopped. Started again. "We needed someone trustworthy in the cardiology-adjacent ward. We did not tell you because we did not need you to do anything. Just be there, be good at your job, and if anything unusual came up in your ward, it would be on record." Song Ha-rin looked at her. "Ms. Mayer, you were never supposed to be in any danger. The entire reason we chose you was that we believed you would be peripheral. Invisible. Safe. And instead," Claire said very quietly, "I walked out into an alley with a medication bag and someone shot me." "Yes." Claire looked at the table. She looked at her tea. She looked at the bright yellow and orange fabric on her walls. Fabric she had hung to make a foreign apartment feel like home. "I was placed," she said, "in that hospital, without my knowledge, by an investigation I did not know was happening. Yes. And because of that placement, because I was trusted by the staff, because I was the one who picked up after hours, because I was reliable, I was the one who went to the pharmacy at 11:40 at night to pick up a patient's forgotten medication." "Yes. So the bullet," Claire said, "was not just about the medication reaching the old man. It was about Cha covering his tracks before your investigation caught the doctor. Because if the old man died quietly, there would be less to investigate. And the doctor would be safe. And Cha would be safe. Song Harin looked at her. Something in the detective's expression was close to anguish. We believe that is correct. Claire sat with that. She sat with the full weight of it. The chain of decisions made by people who thought they were being careful, being strategic, being clever, and how every one of those decisions had led to her in an alley with a bullet in her shoulder. What do you need from me now? She said at last. We need you to. Song Harin stopped. She looked at Claire for a moment, and the professional frame dropped slightly, and what was underneath was a young detective who had been carrying guilt about this for 4 days. I came here to ask if you would testify. About the medication. About the night. About what you observed in the ward regarding the doctor's prescriptions. And the other reason you came? A pause. To apologize. Claire looked at her for a long time. I accept, she said. Not lightly. Not easily. But clearly. And yes, I will testify. Song Harin exhaled, a long, releasing breath. Thank you. I have a condition. What condition? I want to know, Claire said. The moment you move on Cha. The moment it happens. I want to know that the person who shot me is in a room with no exits. She paused. I spent 4 years building a life in this country. I like this country. I like my work. I will not let one night in an alley take that from me. But I need to know it is resolved. I will tell you, Song Harin said. The moment it happens. She called Felix from the hallway. Someone tell me something that is not a complication, she said. The rice cake vendor's cousin makes excellent siki, Felix offered. Felix. Okay. His voice dropped. I asked around gently about Oh Sung-tae. He is a real person, he is in real trouble, and Claire, this is the part. I heard from someone who would know that Oh Sung-tae was seen 2 nights ago, going somewhere east of the city. Quietly. Very fast. A pause. Some people think he ran. Ran from Cha? Or from Byum-suk? Maybe from both. He is the man who sits in the middle of 2 forces that are both very unhappy with him. Does Byum-suk know? I do not know what Byum-suk knows. I only know what street people know. Felix paused. Claire, how are you doing? Not the investigation. You. She leaned against the hallway wall. Her shoulder ached at a low, steady frequency she had gotten used to. I am. She searched for the right word. Processing. That is what you said in the ambulance when Sun-hee told me. I process a lot. Come for dinner tonight, he said. No investigation talk. Just food. She almost said she could not. But the truth was, the only thing that had felt normal in a week was sitting at Felix's table with a bowl of rice and the sound of a busy street outside. Okay, she said. Yes. She was 2 blocks from Felix's apartment when the car slowed beside her. Not a dramatic slowdown. A natural one, the way any car slows for a stop sign. Except there was no stop sign. And the window came down. The man who looked out at her was not someone she recognized. He was middle-aged, slightly built, with the hollow eyes of someone who had not slept in days, and the expression of someone who had made a decision they were not sure about. You are the nurse, he said. In Korean. She stopped walking. Who are you? My name is Oh Sung-tae. He looked down the street, then back at her. I need to talk to you before I make a mistake that cannot be undone. Claire Mayer stood on the pavement in the early evening with her arm in a sling and looked at the uncle of the most dangerous man she had ever met. Get out of the car, she said. We will walk. He blinked. He had clearly not expected that. I am a nurse, she said. I do not get in cars with strangers. But I will walk with you where people can see us. If you want to talk, that is the only way. He got out of the car. They walked 3 blocks. He talked. Oh Sung-tae was not a villain. That was the terrible, complicated truth of him. He was a man who had made an ordinary series of bad choices over a long time until the choices stopped being ordinary. He had borrowed money from Cha's organization before he knew what Cha's organization was. By the time he understood, the debt had grown too large to pay and the exit too narrow to find. He had given Cha the hospital room number because Cha told him nothing would happen. Just a conversation, just a pressure point, just information. I did not know about the nurse, he said. He glanced at her sling. About you. I swear it. I believe you, Claire said. But the bullet did not care about your intentions. He flinched. No. What do you want from me? I want to turn myself in. He said it quickly, like he might lose the courage. To the police. But I am afraid. I do not know what happens to people who cooperate against Cha. Claire thought of Detective Song Harin, sitting at her kitchen table with an unopened notebook and a carried guilt. She thought of the chain of events. She thought about how the only way any of this ended cleanly was if every piece of it came into the light. "I know a detective," she said. "She is honest. I believe that." She looked at Osungtae. "If you want to turn yourself in, I will give you her name." He looked at her. "Why would you help me? After what happened to you because of me?" Claire considered this. "Because," she said, "holding on to things that hurt you does not make you stronger. It just makes you slower." She thought about the medication bag, about the patient in 412, about the way every person in this whole story had been trying to protect someone. Byung-suk protecting his father, the old man protecting his son from painful truth, Osungtae trying to protect himself and failing at it. And because the only way out of this is through it. He was quiet for a moment. "The person who shot you," he said suddenly. "I know who it is." Claire stopped walking. "It is not one of Cha's regular people. Cha does not trust this kind of work to regulars." He looked down at the pavement. "He has a person. Someone no one connects to him. Someone who lives completely normally, works a normal job, has neighbors who wave at them. And then, when Cha needs something specific done, quietly." "Who?" Claire said. "A woman," Osungtae said. "She works at the hospital." The air went out of Claire's chest. "Not a doctor. Not a nurse. She works in records administration. Her name is—" He said a name. And Claire knew her. She was not a stranger. She was someone Claire had nodded to in the hallway for 2 years. Someone who said good morning and brought homemade cookies to the break room at Chuseok. Someone so ordinary, so present, so completely furniture of the background that no one had ever looked at her twice. Claire stood on the pavement and felt the world tilt. Not from blood loss, not from pain, but from the peculiar vertigo of realizing that the face of danger had been saying good morning to her for 2 years. She took a breath. She took another. Then she took out her phone and called Detective Song Ha-rin. "I have Osungtae," she said. "And I have a name for you. In the final batch, everything converges. Cha makes his last move. And what Byung-suk does when he thinks Claire is in danger will reveal the thing he has been carrying since the night in the alley. The ending is not what anyone expects. The arrest of the records administrator happened at 6:17 in the morning, 3 days after Osungtae walked into the police station with Detective Song Ha-rin's number on a piece of paper Claire had written it on. Claire did not watch it happen. Song Ha-rin had offered, said she could be nearby, that it might bring some kind of closure, but Claire had declined. She did not need to watch. She needed to know. Song Ha-rin called her at 6:22. "Done," she said. "She is in custody. Osungtae is cooperating fully. The doctor from the hospital was brought in last night. And Cha." A pause that said everything. "That is still in progress." "How much progress?" "More than I can say on the phone. But Ms. Mayer, it is happening." Claire sat in her kitchen with the morning light coming in and felt something she had not let herself feel since the night in the alley. Relief. Not complete, not final, but the beginning of it. The first loosening of a knot she had been holding since she woke up in the hospital with someone else's card on her bedside table. She went back to work 8 days after that. Head nurse Cho Eun-mi looked at her with both eyebrows raised when she walked through the ward doors, arm finally free of the sling, moving carefully but moving. 3 weeks, Eun-mi said. I said 3. My shoulder is healed. My patients need me. Your patients have been managed. Not the way I manage them. Claire met her supervisor's eyes gently. Please. Eun-mi looked at her for a long moment. Then she sighed in the particular way of someone who has decided not to win an argument they could win. Half shifts. For 1 week. 2 half shifts, then full. Done. Eun-mi turned away, then turned back. Claire. We did not, none of us knew. About the doctor. About what was happening in this building. I know. Are you truly all right? Claire thought about this honestly, the way she thought about most things. I am getting there, she said. That is enough for now. She did not hear from Byung-suk for 9 days. She told herself she had not been waiting. She told herself the silence was expected. He was dealing with the collapse of an enemy's network, the protection of his father, the revelation of a family member he had never known. All of it enormous and none of it simple. She told herself all of this very reasonably and still caught herself, twice, looking at the piece of paper she had kept from her bedside table. Room 412 received the medication. Rest. On the 9th day, while she was finishing a half shift, Sun-hee appeared at her elbow and said quietly, There is someone at the main desk asking for you. Claire looked up. Who? He would not give a name. he said. Son, he looked faintly amused despite herself. He said to tell you that he does not make promises he cannot keep. He was standing at the main desk in that same unhurried way he had, not fidgeting, not checking his phone, simply standing there like he had decided to be exactly where he was and had no doubts about the decision. He wore a dark jacket. No expensive watch today, or if there was, the sleeve covered it. When he saw her coming, he straightened slightly. Not stiffly, just more present. You are back at work, he said. I told you I would be. I know. He looked at her. Really looked the way she was used to doing to other people, taking it in, assessing, deciding something. You look well. I am well. She stopped a few feet from him. You said you would tell me how it ended. I did. He glanced once at the busy hospital entrance, with its orderly streams of nurses and visitors and family members carrying flowers. Can we walk? They walked the long corridor near the garden wing, where the light came through tall windows and the sounds of the ward were muffled. He told her. Cha Ji-sung had been arrested 2 days ago. Not by Byum-suk's people, and not in any way that Byum-suk's world was publicly connected to. The police investigation, fed by Oh Sung-tae's testimony and the records administrator's cooperation and 6 months of evidence that Detective Song Harin and her team had been quietly building, had produced a case solid enough to hold. Cha's organization was in pieces. The parts that remained were, he said this carefully, being handled through other channels. Oh Sung-tae, she asked, cooperating with the prosecution. My father. He paused. My father has agreed to speak with him. Eventually, when he is ready. That is generous. That is my father. Something in his voice was complicated, exasperated and full of love at the same time, in equal measure. He is not a man who knows how to carry hatred. Unlike his son, Byum-suk glanced at her. A fraction of a pause. I am learning. They walked a few more steps. The light shifted as a cloud passed outside. I owe you something, he said. You do not. I do. He stopped walking. She stopped too. You walked into the middle of something enormous and you did not run. You found information that my own people had not found. You sat with an old man and asked the right question at the right time and got the answer that unlocked everything. He looked at her directly. You did all of that with a bullet wound in your shoulder and no reason to trust anyone in this situation. I had reasons, she said. I needed to understand what happened to me. And, she paused, you were honest with me, even when it cost you something. You made it difficult to be otherwise. That is a skill, she agreed. The almost smile again. This time it made it all the way. Not wide, he was not a wide smile kind of person, she was learning. But real. Fully real, the kind that changed the whole face. She looked at it and then, because she was honest with herself about most things, admitted that she had been carrying something these 9 days too. Not just the unresolved question of how it ended. Something else. Something that had started in an alley and grown quietly despite every sensible reason it should not have. Your father, she said. How is he? Stable. He wants to meet you properly. A pause. He says you have a very direct way of asking questions. I learned it from a very direct man. He looked at her. She looked at him. The garden light was clear and generous, and the hospital around them was full of ordinary sounds. Footsteps, a cart rolling, distant voices. The sounds of a place that existed specifically to help people heal. My father also said, Byum-suk continued more carefully, that you told him the only way to protect the people you love is to tell them the truth. I did say that. He said I should remember it. Wise man, your father. Yes. Another pause. This one longer. There are things I would like to tell you. Not about the case. Not about Cha or any of it. He looked at the floor briefly, then back at her, and she saw it. The same off-balance quality she had noticed in the noodle restaurant. The quality of someone who was used to controlling every room they were in and had encountered a person who did not behave like rooms did. But I would not want to assume. Byum-suk, she said. He stopped. I kept the card, she said. The one from the bedside table. I kept it. He was quiet for a moment. Then why? Because no one had ever made sure a patient's medication arrived when I was busy nearly dying, she said. And I thought that was worth keeping. The corridor was quiet around them. Outside, a pigeon sat on the window ledge and then was gone. I would like to have dinner with you, Byum-suk said. Not at Chongsong. Somewhere you have not been before. Somewhere you choose. I choose somewhere with very good jollof rice, she said. There is a place in the next district run by a man named Felix. Fair warning, He will talk to you for 40 minutes before you get your food. I have time. And he will ask you 17 questions. I can answer 17 questions. He will ask 23. The real smile again. I will manage. She called Felix that night. I need to tell you something, she said. Are you safe? Immediately, no preamble. Yes, I am safe. The case is, everything is resolving. The person who shot me is in custody. She sat down on her couch, the bright fabric of her apartment around her. I need to tell you something else. What? I may be bringing someone to your restaurant. A long pause. Who? Someone you have heard of. An even longer pause. Claire Mayer, Felix said at last, in the voice of a man who was doing calculations. Are you telling me? I am not telling you anything, she said. I am just saying. Make good jollof. I always make good jollof. Make excellent jollof. The line was quiet for a moment. Then Felix said, warmly and with great feeling, I knew that Hospital Alley was going to change your life. Felix, I am just saying. Good night, Felix. What day? What time? How many? She ended the call. She was smiling before she even put the phone down. 3 weeks later, her mother called on a Sunday as always. How are you? Her mother said. Tell me truly. Claire looked out her window. The city was doing what cities do on Sunday mornings, slow and unhurried, the streets carrying only the people who had chosen to be out. She had a cup of tea. Her shoulder had one thin scar she had looked at this morning in the mirror with the clinical eye of a nurse and decided was healing beautifully. I am good, she said. Truly. Actually good. Something happened, her mother said. Mothers always know. Something happened, Claire agreed. I will tell you about it. Tell me all of it. She did. Not all at once. It took the whole morning, and her mother made sounds in all the right places, sounds of worry and relief and outrage, and, at the end, laughter. The good kind. So, her mother said when the story was done. This man. Mother. I am asking. He is. Claire searched for words, the way she rarely had to. He is very honest, when you make it difficult to be otherwise. He does not make promises he cannot keep. He made sure an old patient got her medication while I was in surgery. She paused. He is learning not to carry hatred. He sounds complicated. Most worthy things are. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then, are you happy, baby? Claire thought about the alley. The bullet. The card. The noodle restaurant. The walk in the garden corridor. Felix's 45-minute interrogation of Byung-suk-yeon, which had turned into an hour and a half and had ended with Felix declaring him acceptable and Byung-suk looking more genuinely amused than she had ever seen him. She thought about the old man on the hill with his restless hands and his enormous love. She thought about Detective Song Harin, who had come back. Not officially, not for information, but just to check in. They had had tea. It had turned into 2 hours. She thought about her ward. Her patients. The pepper she still kept in the little jar in her locker. The work that had never stopped being the thing she was born to do. I am getting there, she said. Which is enough for now. Then she smiled. Actually, I think I am more than getting there. Her mother exhaled. The sound of someone who has been holding something and finally lets it down. Good, her mother said. That is everything. The last thing. 2 months after the arrest of Cha Ji-sung, Byung-suk-yeon took Claire to meet his father. Properly, the way the old man had asked. They sat in the small house on the hill, in the chairs by the window, while outside the trees moved in a late autumn wind. Yoon Dae-cheol had more color in his face than the last time. He was eating well, he reported. He had started working in the garden again, in small increments. The restless hands were quieter. He looked at Claire, and then he looked at his son, and then he looked at Claire again. You asked me a question, he said to her. The last time you were here. I asked you several questions. The right one. He smiled, a small, private smile. I told you the truth because of the way you asked. Not because I had to. Because you made it feel like the right moment had arrived. The one I had been waiting for without knowing I was waiting. He tilted his head slightly. That is a rare thing. It is just nursing, Claire said. No, the old man said. It is more than that. Beside her, Byung-suk was looking at his father with the expression she now recognized as his most unguarded. The one he could not entirely control. The one that let you see what was underneath all the careful stillness. Love. Simple, total, and enormous. He glanced at her. She looked back. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. The garden was bare now, the way gardens go before they come back. patient and unhurried and entirely sure of themselves. It was, Claire Mayer thought, a good place to begin. She was just a nurse, until the night that changed everything. And then she became the thread that unraveled it all. This story belongs to everyone who has ever been an accidental brave person. Everyone who held on to the bag. This story is only the beginning. The full series continues, and every chapter goes deeper than the last. Subscribe now because the next story drops before you are ready for it, and you will want to be ready. Leave your thoughts below. Who surprised you most? The uncle, the records woman, or the man from the alley? Your answer will change what comes next.